What kind of god would allow Zeus and Odin to run around in the same cosmos, both claiming to be the king of creation? Hey everyone, Yoiston here with a fun video for you all as we take a look at two pantheons at once and compare and contrast their two figureheads, Zeus and Odin, both the leaders and overarching rulers of their respective mythologies. Both took over after the fall of a titan or giant, respectively. Both insanely powerful with great pantheons to call upon. And we're going to compare a few things about these figures for the sake of it, and then take a look at their total power and see if we might understand who would win in a battle between them. My friends, thank you all so much for joining me today. Let's begin our tale. Alright, so first things first, their rise to power. Odin acquired power in many different ways. He was born powerful. He and his brothers defeated Ymir. He went on to acquire knowledge and wisdom by ripping out his eye, hanging himself from Yggdrasil, and that sacrifice allowed him greater insight. Now, looking at Zeus, he was also born with purpose, right? The purpose to hopefully overthrow his father Kronos, which he eventually did. He acquired the Thunderbolt, and went on to become this ruler of Mount Olympus and the rest of the gods. So, speaking of that, let's go to their position. So Zeus is the supreme sky god. He rules Olympus, maintains cosmic order, he embodies power, and kind of gives much of that pantheon some ideal of strength to strive for. As for Odin in Norse mythology, he is a god of wisdom, war, the All-Father, acting as this sort of father for the rest of the pantheon. And he has power over magic and runes. Now, I will say, something we'll see that's a difference between these two overrulers of their pantheons is Zeus is far more abrupt and upfront. He commands this strength and this presence. Yes, he can shapeshift and come to others in dreams, but usually he's pure strength. Whereas Odin, at times he can be like that. At times he can be very much the strong ruler of Asgard and of the Aesir gods, but more often we see him being more subtle. He's more likely to use other ways than strength to overcome that which stands before him. Now, both are subject to fate, it seems, even though they are the rulers of their pantheons. But I will say, Odin is afraid of his fate. He knows that he's going to die in Ragnarok, and, according to Ragnarok, he does. As for Zeus, he becomes aware of the prophecy that's meant to overthrow him and sidesteps it, more or less, is able to consume Metis and ensure that the sun that's meant to overthrow him never comes to be. So we'll come back to that later. Alright, as for morality, I would say that neither one of them are really, noble gods in many ways. At least, again, in a mythological sense. They both do some good, they both do a lot of evil. We see this with Odin with Fenrir, right? We see him kind of mistreating this beast that will eventually kill him. And Zeus's paranoia was kind of bad. I mean, he didn't let humans have fire until it was stolen from him. However, in terms of their kind of weaknesses of personality, Odin has a great fear and anxiety of his death that's to come. Zeus, his weakness usually is his arrogance, his lack of humility. Alright. Looking at weapons and powers at their disposal, I will say Odin wins this here. He's just got more at his disposal because he's got this concept of magic, right? How much or how little, what that magic can or can't do, I'm not sure, but that gives him a big opening here. He also has his spear, Gungnir, his steed, Sleipnir, and those are really going to be his biggest pieces of power and weapons at his disposal. Zeus, more or less, I'm sure he could call upon the beasts and so forth that serve him as well, Pegasus and so forth. But really his Thunderbolt is going to be his biggest weapon, his biggest aid here. Alright, now let's look at their past battles, some of the myth leading to a potential battle between these two. As for Zeus, he defeats the giant serpentine-like monster Typhon. Kronos, right, his own father, obviously Zeus takes him down, or at least him and his brothers, he and his brothers do that, and he leads the gods against the giants. As for Odin, he leads the Aesir against the Vanir at times. He doesn't really do much direct conflict, as he's really preparing for Ragnarok, and again trying to avert his death, gathering strong undead soldiers to Valhalla that he'll use in that battle. But he does have certain duels of wit and wisdom that we see throughout, such as in the Prose Edda. So, again, Zeus, a lot more confrontational, a lot more direct. Odin, he's a little bit more behind the scenes and so forth. So, again, we're going to get back to that in a bit. Now, their pantheons. This deserves its own video. The Greek pantheon in terms of its power versus the Norse pantheon in terms of its power. There's a lot to be said here, and to be honest, I'm not yet qualified to answer how that would go. I would need a much deeper understanding of the many gods, the many mythic creatures, the many, all of that stuff. Right, and also that answer would change whether Loki stands with Odin or against Odin during this, and how much of other parts of the Pantheon Zeus could call upon, versus could he only look at Mount Olympus, or could he also call upon the underworld and the creatures of the sea and land and so forth. So that would look a lot different. How much of their family could they call upon, so on and so forth. But that puts them kind of at a tie with regards to how their pantheons would help them. Maybe not a great answer for that, but they're both very powerful and could go many different ways. So, in terms of intelligence, I think Odin has that. He's a deeper character. He literally self-sacrificed for wisdom and intelligence and all of that. But that intelligence isn't always helpful, as we see. Strength and physical power, Zeus easily has that. He's willing to stand at the forefront, command the battles against titans or giants. When it comes to tactics and strategy, I think Odin has this because, again, he just has much more to draw from. Zeus has his physicality and physical fighting as well as his lightning bolt, but Odin, on the other hand, he uses simply more magic and magical means, runes, necromancy. Yes, Zeus also uses disguises, but really just Odin's versatility really shines through here. So strategy would go to him. Combat skill, one-on-one, again, Zeus, right? He can wrestle, he can get after it. He rarely, if ever, loses any physical confrontations. Magic obviously goes to Odin. Zeus's lightning bolt is probably a fair bit of magic, I would imagine. But Odin, he is simply known for his magic, for the reasons that I stated before. But again, he just has manipulation of that sphere more than Zeus does. So this one's kind of interesting because they're both the heads of their pantheons. But Zeus just is more recognized than Odin is for his authority. Again, Odin has the Aesir versus Vanir. And on top of all of that, Ragnarok truly is just Loki becoming free and rebelling against the gods and leading to the end of the world with all of his strength against all of their strength. And finally, control over fate also goes to Zeus, because again, he sidesteps his fate versus Odin, who can't get away from his death and inevitably does die. So, Odin in most tales, driven by his fear of death, driven by his kind of growth in character during the time of his pantheon. He does have more depth and introspection as a character, as a figure, than Zeus does. And he's kind of like the whole Batman with prep time idea. Odin with time to prepare and mislead Zeus. He would have a better shot at defeating Zeus if he was able to do that. However, I think overall, Zeus has this. Odin does have more tricks up his sleeve, but just in terms of how they are as mythological figures, Zeus overthrows Odin. I don't think it's particularly close with that, but much of what drives Odin is the fear of his inevitable downfall, and Zeus is able to get away from his. Zeus typically finds victory, and Odin, a lot of his story is wrapped up in the fact that he eventually will be defeated. So, thank you all so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on this battle in the comments below. Hit that like button and share this with a friend if you want to help this channel continue to grow. And I hope you all are enjoying these different videos. Still looking to try some different pantheons and different mythologies as well going forward, but had this idea and I wanted to put this video out there. So thank you all for watching, and my friends, thank you for joining me on this adventure. Until the next one.